Well, thank you, Nimrod. That's quite an introduction. Hard to follow Will Smith video and a former director of the CIA, but I'll do my best here. It's really an honor to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak with the group here for a little bit. As president of the Nasdaq Stock Exchange, I oversee Nasdaq's capital markets efforts, all of our new listings efforts, and then a global team that handles the relationship management for 3,700 listed companies, as was mentioned, as well as a software business that has 10,000 clients that helps companies communicate with their investors. So, and I've been with Nasdaq for the past 17 years and have watched our company hopefully innovate and grow. We've been around for 47 years, and we try to treat ourselves as a 47-year-old startup, which is not always easy to do once you reach the scale and reach that we are. So I'll talk just a moment about our listing business and the relationship we have with Israel in that, but then pivot into how Nasdaq views innovation, how we're trying to innovate ourselves, and then what we're looking at to do with the capital markets when it comes to innovation. So Nasdaq's relationship with Israel dates back to the 1980s with the first listed company. We now have over 70 Israeli companies. It's our second largest listing market outside of the U.S. China's first. And that does represent about $52 billion in capitalization that's listed on Nasdaq from Israel. So as we look at the innovation and human capital that comes out of Israel and how the world views it, I think we're all very familiar with the respected moniker of the startup nation. As I go to Israel a handful of times a year, and we've met with companies and founders who are on their second, third, fourth companies that they've started, and looking at the late stage capital that now has come into Israel, clearly the hope and I think the goal for Israel will expand well beyond that startup nation moniker to be a bit more what we do know the successful outcomes can be and have seen with companies going public in the U.S. and certainly locally. I've had the thrill to watch companies like Checkpoint, Amdocs, Elbit Systems, Knife Systems, Tower Jazz, Wix.com, to name a few, understand what the capital markets can mean to them in their growth trajectory. And a lot of folks view the IPO as the goal. If IPO is the goal, you're doing it for all the wrong reasons. The reason why you do go public is for those second, third, fourth capital raising events that really help you grow to become the global, multi-billion-dollar company that you dream of as a founder. And today in the U.S. capital markets, it's been ebbs and flows in terms of the activity. The hope for this year, especially on technology, is to have one of the more robust years we've seen in quite some time. There's over 100 companies right now that are on file getting ready to go public. 5 are from Israel. And this Friday, we start the technology kind of launch in the U.S. with a company called Zscaler out of California. A couple $1 billion valuation will go public. Dropbox is the week after that. And then you're going to see this continuous appetite for technology companies going public as long as the crop that goes out today does well. So we're very optimistic about this year and what can happen with the listing market. So I think as people look at Nasdaq and who we are, they're very familiar with the listing business and our trading business. And as mentioned, we've been around since 1971, and a bit at the forefront of this fintech evolution. We're much more known as being a financial company. I think that's how the analysts, even for a long time, have bucketed us. But as we've grown into who we are today, which I'll explain in a moment, we are positioning ourselves much more as a technology company. And I'll explain what that means in a minute. So obviously, I go around the globe and people recognize us as the exchange that lists Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, et cetera, all the healthcare and consumer giants. What we have had in the U.S. is that great brand, that franchise, that listing business. And it started with trading U.S. equities. And now today, Nasdaq owns and operates 26 of our own platforms. So we trade commodities, futures, derivatives, et cetera. So we've grown that franchise as well as a very, very robust data business. And then through an acquisition that we did of the Nordic exchanges almost 8 years ago today, we inherited a business that was a pretty niche business at the time, and this was outsourcing technology to other exchanges. And we saw our brand ability to come in and say, here's what we do very well in the United States. How can we really expand this business line? So over the course of the last 5 years, we've grown that to where we operate the exchange, the software for 100 exchanges throughout the world in 50 different countries. This ranges from equities, commodities, derivatives, clearing, and settlement, as well as the government entities that surveil trades. So as we think about the bad actors in the world today and how trades have moved and what the capabilities are with some of the new innovative technologies, that's a really exciting business for us today. So when you talk about innovation and we think about what is our core businesses, they're great cash businesses, listings, trading, but our growth is going into data and outsourcing technology and outsourcing in the cloud. So with our businesses, we think about this in terms of all the exciting new opportunities now where you have machine intelligence. Again, I'll mention the cloud, different types of where quantum is going to go, et cetera. That's Nasdaq's focus. And we're doing this with a term that we're calling the market's economy. And what we look at is taking really the best features of the U.S. equities market and how it can impact daily transactions and what we do very well, which is process things very, very quickly in microseconds, and we run very, very complex auctions. So with the launch of the digital economy and online commerce, eBay, the electronic auction communities, we're really the pioneers of this and under price discovery for the one-to-one ratio. So what we're seeing today is really this opportunity for the potential for continuous price discovery in markets that are well beyond just the financial instruments that we operate today. So this is where we're very excited. So if you thought about Nasdaq and the areas that we operate, not too many folks in the room probably would know that we run the Hong Kong Jockey Club is on Nasdaq technology. We run a new ad exchange, uses Nasdaq technology. A reinsurer is now using our technology. So what we are doing is thinking about assets or classes well beyond financial instruments to where this price discovery and continuous auction capabilities exist to provide a better outcome for the buyers, not just the sellers that really have existed to this point. So that's our view of, when you think about Nasdaq and what the expectations are of a public company, it's always to grow, always to find new things, or you're going to die. So that's really been our approach. And the way we get there, quite frankly, is by learning about all the new companies that are out there. So as our technology team, it is now over 1,000 people throughout the globe, what they look at doing is spending a lot of time in places like Israel, in places like the Valley. They go all over the world trying to see who can help us accelerate that growth because it is just so hyper-competitive today. So that's the excitement about Nasdaq is that we are always trying to find ways that we can grow, innovate, do different things, and I've never been more excited after 17 years about what the opportunity lies in front of us to do new things and innovate in the capital market space. So that's a little bit of what I want to share on that. We also have to look at our core businesses and say, how do we innovate on those? And I'll wrap up by just mentioning the biggest focus that I've been on the last year or so is looking at the U.S. capital markets and the need to innovate there. Today in the United States, if you are Apple or if you're a small cap or mid cap company, you trade the same way, you have the same rules and regulations, and really you're supposed to operate in the same dynamic. And that's pretty hard when you think about getting a new company off the ground, going public, and what that takes to create that infrastructure. So we've launched what's called the Nasdaq Project Revitalize, and it's really based on 3 key tenets. One is that on the trading and lack of liquidity, there's over 1,000 companies on Nasdaq today that are pretty illiquid stocks. So how we're working with technology to say if we could consolidate that volume, bring more liquidity onto one platform, use technology to understand company by company what type of characteristics they should have on things like tick sizes or spreads or how we incentivize market makers to provide liquidity. So technology, in our view, is advanced to where we can really provide a better trading environment. The second area that we focused on is the regulatory side. As mentioned, small mid-caps have the same exactly regulatory requirements as Apple, and they don't have the ability to compete in that world or have the same sort of talent. So we're looking at how we can have smarter regulation and bring in a better environment for small startup companies to be public but have the same sort of transparency they need to have to protect investors. And the last one that gets a lot of attention is long-termism. So how do you be a public company? How do you pivot? How do you advance, do different things if investors are so short-term? And this is the hardest one to fix, but the one we're most focused on. And I'm getting the bell here, but it's an area, if you are a young company thinking about being public, the trend in the United States, the trend across the globe is to stay private longer. And as much as I love everyone to say, I've got a path, I want to be public, we don't want you to go public until you're ready, because it is very hard to be a public company and operate the way you do want to operate for long-term growth. So we have started a Nasdaq private market to help out there. So I'll wrap up. I guess I'd say as a company that is a 14 billion market cap company on Nasdaq, been around for almost 47 years, as you look at growing your businesses, it's obviously always important to say what's behind the corner, what's next, who's coming up, and how do I adapt your model to be, say, ahead of the curve. And that's what we're trying to do at Nasdaq. So thanks for your time.